All right. Hello, my friends. Welcome to Rewrite Your Relationship Story with Human Design. About a year ago, I was introduced to human design through a money coach that I was working with, and I totally was like Alice in Wonderland and got sucked into the vorse of human design. But it has been one of the most fascinating topics to explore. And so what I've been doing with it the last year is I've really kind of been using it to understand more about myself, but also using it to understand more around how it could work with relationships. And this is what I've come up with, my friends, is you can, like, currently now you have a story, and we're going to go into this in more detail. You've got a story, and human design is going to help you to understand what your soul curriculum is, like, in this world, what you are here to do and who you truly are, and how you can use this information to rewrite your relationship story with yourself and with someone else in your life. So it might be your spouse, it could be your mother-in-law, it could be your sister, whatever it is. So I want to share with you from my perspective, and I'm certainly not a human design expert. I am trained in it, I am certified. However, I haven't been doing it long enough in my experience to really know the ins and outs of it. But this is how I've been using it. This is how it's been super helpful for me. And I hope it's kind of an entry point into the world of human design for yourself. And be careful. Caveat, be careful, you might get sucked down the rabbit hole as well. So hopefully you don't. That's what I am here to do. I am the person that likes to explore and get curious around these topics. So what I want to bring you today is a real short snippet of how I believe you can use knowing what your human design is to enable you to rewrite your relationship story. So I'm going to start with sharing you my screen. All right, so here we go. Rewrite your relationship story with human design. First of all, let's look at relationships. So in the most common terms, when we talk about relationships, and this comes from what I've learned in sales in my previous life pre-coaching, is there are 3 stages to traditional relationship, relationship building or building rapport. And these 3 stages start as curiosity, and you'll recognize these with the relationship that potentially you're in. So even if you think about the spouse that you're with now, or your partner, is when you first met them, you're super curious. Like, you want to know everything about them, right? It's like, honeymoon period, we get really, really curious. And then the second part to that is, we might be dating them after a couple of years, and then we end up in this kind of space where we become really enlightened. Like, we like who they are, we enjoy their company, they'll bring out the best in us in some areas. We'll really kind of get to this like light bulb stage of like, holy shit, I love this person. I could see myself being with this person for a lot longer, or, oh my God, like, I think this might be the person that I want to have kids with. So we go through this stage of enlightenment. And then, of course, we're together, a bit longer, and we get to that stage where we are now committed. We have this commitment where we want to be with them forever, or we want to be with them for a long time, or we want to have children, or we want to build our dreams with this person. And this is great. Like, it's a wonderful, wonderful place to be in. Now, when you put side by side the phases of human design, the first phase is called the attraction phase. And so that aligns super well with the curiosity phase, right, of a traditional stage of a relationship: attraction, curiosity. And then we have the second phase of human design, which is patterns and themes. And I think this is, again, it lines up so perfectly with the second stage of traditional relationships, is when you become enlightened. I think where patterns and themes come in is that you start recognizing what your patterns and themes are in relationships, how you communicate, how you do certain things, the themes of your life when you look back. Like, for me, revolving door of relationships, I really started to notice what my themes have been throughout my life, and potentially like where they've actually been created from, what belief system's been in play. So I think phase 2 of human design has been one of the most useful tools for me to really become more enlightened with myself. And then the third phase of human design is where we actually step into this real love, real acceptance and value that we see in ourselves and that we see in other people. And again, that's like a commitment, right? It's a commitment to our relationship. When we have this real love for each other, when we accept each other for truly who they are, in all their imperfection, and to really value who we are in this relationship, what we bring, and what the other person brings in return too. So I just wanted to bring those two kind of together, and because I think this really helps to paint a useful picture where human design can come in handy with our traditional way of seeing relationships. So I know that in my view, like when I was first starting in relationships, and I didn't really have good relationships to look back on, like I wasn't raised in a mum and dad situation. And so my belief system always kind of tapped into, this is how I believe relationships should go. They should be very linear, and, we should be happy all the time, and we shouldn't argue, and we should always have the same dreams, and we should have, like all the things. But the reality is that relationships are actually a cycle. And I do fully believe that, sometimes when we get to that commitment stage, so we go through curiosity, we become enlightened, and we make this commitment to each other. So we say our vows, and then we commit to being with each other forever, doing life together. I think where we stop though is because we get to this linear point where we go, oh, okay, like we're kind of there now, like we stop growing, we start seeing other people's differences as a problem. And this is where I think it's cyclical, where we could let's go back to that curiosity stage again. Let's go back to the enlightenment stage again. And then what's the new commitment we want to make in our relationship? So if we go to, when we overlay the human design part, and up in that top right-hand corner is where you'll see a body graph, and this is based upon the 9 chakras. And I'm not going to go further into human design at this stage. I just wanted to kind of introduce you to, I suppose, how I view human design and relationships, and how I've kind of molded them together. When we have that curiosity, that attraction phase, and then we move into the next phase, which is the enlightenment, and we get to know each other's patterns or our themes, and then we can go to that commitment stage and be like, okay, like what would love do? Where's the acceptance required from me or from the other person? What is my value here? And then go back to and if I've got a problem with this, or if they've got a problem with this, is going back to that curiosity phase. And I think this is a constant in relationships. This is how we grow. This is how we evolve, is don't stop at commitment, get curious again. What is the reason this issue or this thing has come to light? How can I be curious around why I feel the way I do, or why they feel the way they do? How can I get curious about that? How can I then move into that phase of enlightened? What patterns or themes are coming to play, coming into existence, are really showing up for me? And then when we go back to that commitment stage, this could be a super valuable learning curve for me. This could be something that we learn together, or that I learn for myself, and then help him to see it as well. Or maybe he doesn't even have to. Again, I'm a big believer in, you are at the core of all your relationships. And so curiosity, enlightenment, and commitment really comes from you first. But sometimes we like to give that to the other person. So the next part is, we are not all created the same. And again, I think when we meet someone that we get attracted to, I think right at the beginning is we feel the energy, we're attracted by energy, and therefore we believe we have the same dreams and the same, the kind of the same heart is such. But the reality is that we don't. And so when we get to that part where something happens, a situation, a circumstance, is we have, and this is the iceberg theory, and you might have seen it. It's something that I've learned through, through a lot of communication and sales seminars, is, what's under these things here, what's under the iceberg are a huge part of that patterns and themes, and it's a huge part of understanding and how we can bring the curiosity to find out more about, what skills and knowledge do I need to learn? How do I grow? Like, how do I tap into my own emotional intelligence? What's my attitude towards me, towards them, towards our relationship? What is my attitude just towards relationships? What do they even mean for me? What are our values, needs? There's so many different parts to the human experience, and it's impossible to actually know it all. Now, the reason why I bring this up is this next slide here is, what's underneath that iceberg is belief, and belief is our story. Belief is, what lays beneath, and it's how we present to the world what we believe to be true for us. And, the little question on the side there, what are the meanings? What are the meanings what meanings are you creating in your life? So what is your reality right now in terms of your relationship? Because thoughts actually create our reality. Thoughts create results. And so wherever your relationship is right now, it'll be coming from belief system, it'll be coming from patterns, it'll be coming from themes, it'll be coming from the meanings that you give life. And so I think this is the very, very first part of rewriting your relationship story, is to find out what your beliefs are. Okay, so let's look at what's in the story. Your thoughts create your reality. Beliefs are thoughts. Thoughts are words, and words come from your mind. And they aren't always true. I remember when I first heard this and I thought, what? My thoughts aren't always true? I'd never ever questioned that. I just thought all the shit that was going on in my brain, like, that was all truth. And up until 3 years ago, before coaching came into my life, I never ever believed that this is where everything came from. I just thought this life that I had, this childhood that I had, this mother that I had, the relationships that I had, like, they all were created by someone else. But the reality is I had been creating them from a story. And so the first part, and I know we haven't touched on a lot on human design, I'm going to actually touch on that more in day 2. First, I want to kind of set the scene with the beliefs and some kind of mindset work around how to rewrite your relationship story. And the first part that I want you to consider is that in sales, you can also call this the belief triad. It's where you have thoughts about you, it's thoughts about them, and thoughts about relationships. And so, my coach always says, you could try and say it like me, but she's always going to win. But there is no better way to say this. And so I don't think I'm going to win at how I'm going to say it. But the reality is the actual sentence, the actual belief, the actual truth of this is the winner. Like, doesn't matter who says it. And that is, relationships are simply thoughts you have about people, and your beliefs or your set of thoughts about what it means to you to be in a relationship. Like, that in itself is super powerful to know. Relationships are just thoughts about people. And your sets of beliefs, your thoughts, come from your mind. So we can change those anytime. And it's a great thing to know. Sometimes the part where we get to is, how do we change it, right? We always want to know how. First of all, we don't have to go to the how. We actually need to figure out what they are. And so today's work for you is to look at this relationship triad and to write down maybe just 5 things. List 5 things you think about relationships. What do they mean to you? What should they look like? Where did you see relationships, good relationships? Where did you see bad ones? Not that there's such things as good and bad necessarily. I want you to look at what your thoughts are, what your beliefs are around relationships. And if you want to take that to the next step, if you're married, you could even go to what are my thoughts about marriage? You know, we have a lot of old patriarchal views on marriage and what marriage should look like, you know, from almost centuries ago. Sometimes we actually still hold some of them very subconsciously to be true. So before we can change that story, we need to know what the story actually is that we're telling ourselves. And then I want you to look at, you know, what thoughts do you have about your partner right now? You know, and think about maybe to the last argument you had or the last good time you had together. What happened yesterday? You know, what were you thinking about them yesterday, and what are you thinking about them today? And again, just write a list of, you know, 5 to 10 things that you believe to be true about them, or you believe to be true for them. So just write those down. And then the last piece is, of course, we always want to look at ourselves. What are the thoughts that I have about myself? What are the beliefs I have about myself? And I know I've done this exercise before where I've asked people to write down, you know, the first 5 things that come to mind about themselves. And they don't even have to be good things. People really struggle. People really don't consciously know what they're thinking about themselves. And so there's the work for you to do there, is to write down maybe 5 to 10 things that you think about yourself, your beliefs about yourself, who you are, what you were meant to do in this world, what you are here to bring, what you believe to be true for you. Okay. And this is where we're going to end part 1 today, is the way to improve your relationship is to understand you more fully. Truly getting to know yourself, what you need, what you want, how you communicate it, and literally how to disentangle yourself from it. And we do all of this before trying to understand what is underneath someone else, like what is under the iceberg for someone else. We need to know what's in it for us, like, right? We need to know how I can change my view of the world, and how this then could change the view of my relationship, whether it be this one or future ones. All right, so that is where I'm going to end today. And I think I just stopped to share. Yeah, I did too. Okay. This is where I'm going to end today. That is your task, is to figure out what your story is first. We need to know that before we can go rewrite it. It's like, you know, if you don't read the book, you can't change the ending. So go and do that work. Don't make it overcomplicated. Make sure you give yourself lots of space to be able to do it. Make sure you look after yourself when you're doing it. If anything gets too big, too heavy, feel free to stop any time. You know, this is just simply an exercise to understand more fully about you and your brain and how it works. And, you know, really look after yourself through this process. Take yourself for a walk, journal about it, put some favorite music on. Look after yourself when you're doing this exercise too. All right. And tomorrow I will be back with the next stage of how to rewrite your relationship.